Hi, everybody. My name is Caroline Colas. I'm the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. I'm delighted that you're here. And today on the Positive Psychology Hour, a series that we do in partnership with the Whole Being Institute, we are going to be discussing love mirrors and actually creating one, exploring love through the magic of metaphor. Melissa Johnson Carissimo, she's the founder of Metaphoric Affect Processing, or MAP. And so for Valentine's Day, Melissa is going to guide us in a unique and powerful exploration of love through the MAP process. MAP is actually a simple yet transformative tool for creating connections and accessing empathy and self-compassion to better understand ourselves and others in a refreshing and authentic way. And what a better way to do that than on Valentine's Day. So today we're going to explore love through this magic of metaphor, learning to transcribe our states of mind and the states of the mind of everybody on the call in the form of a poem. And that poem we call a metaphor mirror. This presentation is in part of the JCC's Books That Changed My Life Festival. And Melissa is going to talk with me about two of her books that influenced her work, a little bit about her. She is a counselor trained in Carl Rogers' person-centered approach and a Whole Being Institute certified positive psychology coach. She's the creator of Metaphoric Affect Processing, a metaphor-based interview designed to facilitate intuitive introspection and non-analytical expression of difficult feelings, mitigating thought patterns common to states of anxiety and depression. She has researched and taught the MAP process in oncology, psychiatry, palliative care, and nephrology settings in the largest public hospitals in Genoa, Italy. And she's going to be focusing today on this process, but how to turn it sort of inside us as a community to talk about how we can love or at least befriend ourselves. Yeah. Melissa, I welcome
Sounds
you
good.
to the
Thank
call.
You. Yeah, that's great.
Let me add
Thank
the
you,
spotlight
Caroline.
here. But first, let's talk a little bit about the Books That Changed Our Life Festival. At the JCC right now, we're holding this amazing Books That Changed Our Life Festival. Our entire lobby looks like a library. People can come in and the kids are sitting in beanbag chairs and taking books off the shelf and reading. And we've been asking folks like yourself, what's your favorite book or a book that's really impacted or influenced you?
You know, we were talking about this before the call began, and I chose two nonfiction books, one of them for the title exclusively. And you may all know Jon Kabat-Zinn's, one of his first really successful books. And the title is Full Catastrophe Living. And this is a title that is inspiring because of the way it embraces that wonderful oxymoron, because of the way it really grabs hold of the idea of living fully, even in face of difficulty, which is part of what metaphoric affect processing really works at. So that was important for me.
And I believe you had another book.
Indeed, indeed. And the introduction particularly is what I chose it for. Another piece of nonfiction, a manual, actually, a new approach to preventing relapse. It's a mindfulness-based cognitive therapy manual written by Mark Williams, John Teasdale, Zindel Siegel. And this introduction really reads like a thriller, a research thriller. And as these guys got together and began to really approach, mandated by the British health system, really began to approach the problem of why depression recurs even after recovery. They began to cast about for solutions, came upon Jon Kabat-Zinn through colleagues. But the process was thrilling to me and really related to what I was doing in the hospital. It made me even more excited about understanding the why of of patients' difficulty expressing challenging emotion, why that tended in many cases to trigger a kind of negative thought mode, and what we could do about it in creative ways, and specifically then with metaphor. So I guess what I'm talking about are books that really inspired and excited.
Yeah, excited you and your work. Speaking of negative thought mode, there's a lot of, could you guys put in the chat your feelings about Valentine's Day? Because I think that sometimes that can bring, this particular day can bring up all kinds of different feelings about it. And for me, it really is a day of the heart. It's not so much about, as Hallmark would like us to think, celebrating romantic love. You can certainly do that, and I welcome that. But for me, it's really about, as a somatic practitioner and a NIA instructor, about really embracing and loving and befriending your body, your mind, your heart, and how to do that. And Melissa, how about for you? Do you have any feelings of Valentine's Day in particular?
It's I'm thinking of it in this moment as a color. And this is part of what we'll be working on. I was trying to come up with ideas about my feelings, but that was a little too challenging. But I'm telling you right now, Valentine's for me is kind of a swirl of pink and yellow with a little dark blue in there. And I won't analyze that, but there you have it. That's my Valentine impression.
I love it. And Don said, Challenge Times Day, one of those high expectation days. Let's see, and let's just see what we have that put a lot of pressure on us. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Don. Deb says, shame that I am still single. Rachel says, Valentine's Day, something not for me, not meant for me. Valentine's Day evokes chocolate. I love that. Yeah. So how do we add ourselves back into the picture? It doesn't matter what day it is. And I think, Melissa, your work in particular, this work of metaphor, I have never done anything like it before. And Melissa actually came to the JCC. She did 3 different sessions with us in our lobby, and anyone could come in and do this process with us, and it was fascinating. First of all, it's fast, and it's a whole different way of experiencing sort of your internal world. And I'm hoping those of you that have a relationship with, that have shared in the chat about Valentine's Day, let's see if that shifts at all. Not that it needs to, but it's just interesting to see what this process can do to reflect our interior life. I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you started that way, Caroline. And it reminds me that what we can also do today on Valentine's Day is write a love letter to ourselves, is be really deeply in touch with that love that we feel, to explore that today. So we're gonna work today with metaphor, with this approach called metaphoric affect processing, to find new words for our loving feelings. First, to get in touch with them, to sense them in our hearts, in the landscape specifically of our sensory selves. And we'll use this process of metaphoric affect processing, metaphor mirroring, to engage metaphor as an instrument of sensory perception and not just of description, which is how we typically know it. We're going to explore our feelings, as the little line indicates, running from the heart to that page. We're going to explore our feelings while bypassing our heads, if we can, really without going to our rational selves. And we're going to have the opportunity, in fact, to surprise ourselves, I'm hoping, as we move through this process. We're going to be working on a love letter to ourselves today. I want you each to, if you will, have a piece of paper handy, because you'll be creating a metaphor mirror for yourselves, which is a poetic text directly reflecting your emotional self in the moment. So have that ready as we begin, and know that in the title line, Valentine can be dear me. Be ready to replace Valentine with the name of the beloved. That can be yourself. It can be your pet. The sky's the limit as you approach this process. So what we're doing here is we're going to use metaphor to actually identify in this sensory perceptive way, and then verbalize. The identification will come pre-verbally and become words naturally, as metaphor does. And this will end up on the page in a way that you will experience has a regulatory effect, and will ultimately then transform these feelings, kind of heart to page and back again. And we'll do that without engaging analysis or interpretation. And I'd love to share with you just for a minute what that is going to feel like. I'll ask you off the top of your heads, without writing anything down, but just thinking about it, as you talked about Valentine's Day. Similarly, in this moment right now, what does your state of mind say to you? How are you feeling right in this moment? A word that describes that. So come up with that word. And then ask yourself, what color am I right now? What color is that feeling? Taking that approach to your emotional self has just affected metaphoric affect processing. You have just transformed the feeling into a sensory perception. What I began to discover in the hospital as I started using metaphor with patients to help them express themselves was that this process had the effect of knocking patients off of a kind of pernicious, ruminative, negative thinking cycle. A frontal question like, how are you, could often result in a patient's kind of more deeply entrenching their negative thought patterns. We can think of our experience of the world running in two different, as neurologists refer to it, two different cortical networks. One is body-based and experiential, and the other is thought-based. Is focused on the past, the future. It's a kind of a narrative. And what we're doing with metaphoric affect processing is bypassing that whole process. To say a bit about what metaphor is, cognitive linguists Lakoff and Johnson talk about metaphor as an actual neural phenomenon. Metaphor is something that happens to us. It's actually an experience of one thing as another thing. We talk in metaphor theory of a target and a source domain for metaphor. Today, our target will be love. In this sentence, love is a smile. Smile is our source domain. That's the place that we're looking for our senses of our target, which is love in this case. Typically, the source is something more concrete. And in metaphoric affect processing, we'll be going to our senses for the concrete help. Part of what this does is allow us to communicate propositionally. Instead of saying, I am sad, to say rather, I am a little flower drooping in the corner of a flower shop where there's not enough light. I have just implied everything. So many nuances with the wilted flower image that I gave you metaphorically. It's very, very different from the proposition of being sad. Part of what this process does is changes our relationship to our feelings, which can then actually change our feelings themselves. As I began using sense metaphor, which actually allows us to create a metaphor that reflects our feelings, at which point we and our emotional state can actually begin to reflect the reflection. You see those two-way wiggly lines between ourselves and our metaphor mirrors in this image. This has wonderful science roots in Vittorio Galese's work on mirror neurons, Valentina Cuccio, who's an associate of his, her work on embodied simulation. What we know about observing things outside ourselves is that the mere act of observation can produce in us a neurological reality as if we were actually doing what we're observing. And they've both done a lot of work with metaphor as well, that metaphor creates the neurological processes that are represented by the metaphor, which makes it a really powerful instrument. Part of what we're doing as we expand perspective with metaphoric affect processing is make available these new relationships to emotions, makes us, allows us access to positive approaches, different approaches, broadening our perspective upon which we can build, allowing us to create a kind of upward spiral, which is so beneficial. Allows us often in this increased perspective, a way to perceive pathways, ways of going forward that had been invisible to us before, which is of course a fundamental element of hope. This neurological effect that we have been looking at is something that also allows metaphoric affect processing to create a kind of intrinsic empathy. If my metaphoric representation of my feelings is something that produces a neurological effect in my listener, they actually feel what I'm feeling in a way that is different from propositional language. And we'll learn about how to then work with the language that we create in a way that that keeps us building forward, spiraling upward, broadening and building. One of the wonderful things about metaphor is that the deliberate metaphor, and the more novel and unusual the metaphor is, the more motor activation it creates neurologically, which is exciting in relation to metaphoric affect processing, because our metaphors can be pretty wacky. An added benefit here is something that researcher Matthew Lieberman has shown us with magnetic resonance imaging. The right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex is the specific address of feelings processed symbolically, which of course metaphor represents alla grande. And it is the same neurological address of something that Lieberman calls the disruption effect, which is what happens when we interrupt negative feelings. So again, it's a good neighborhood to be in. We will now turn to our pieces of paper, if you will, and we're going to begin to create this this ode to love today. And you're again welcome to substitute in the title line, substitute that word Valentine for whatever the beloved is in the moment, or whatever you would like to explore your loving feelings about, put whatever name or destination you would like in that title line. And we're off. Dear Valentine. Now I'm going to ask you to sit inside that space. I want you to settle into a feeling of love. And even if it's not easily accessible for you in this moment, let yourself imagine even that it is. Settle into that loving sensation around the object of your love, the recipient of your Valentine, again, who may very well be yourself. And your first line will be, in my love for you, you are. And I invite you to write that right under your title at the top of your page. In my love for you, you are. And I'd like you to sense what color. In my love for you, you are. What color is the object of your love in this moment for you? What color? And when you have a sense of the color, say one or two words about it that would let me know, if I were to see that color on the street, that it's your color, that it's the color of your love for your Valentine. Again, in this space of love with your Valentine in your mind, you are the sound of your Valentine. What sound is your Valentine? This is to your object of love. What sound are they? And going back to your image and speaking to your image of your loved one. To the touch, you are. That's your next line. To the touch, you are. And that's a tactile sensation. You can put your hands, you're putting your hands on your sense of love for the object of your message. And what do you feel under your fingertips? And moving away from touch there in the landscape of love for your object. Your object is an animal. What animal is your Valentine? And what is your Valentine doing? What is this Valentine animal doing? That's your next line. As you're loving. And your message to your Valentine is, in my love for you, your movement, some kind of motion, a movement, a motion, a gesture. This is your message for your Valentine. Now, I'll ask Caroline to come back.
Here I am.
There you are. And I will ask as many of you as would like to think about sharing some of their responses. And I'll ask for them one at a time. And together we'll create a group Valentine. We'll experience and explore the love that we're feeling, all of us together in this group today.
Awesome. Does anybody just raise your hand or let me know if you want to come off and share?
I'd love to hear
Or you can
an
put it in the
example,
chat.
an example of a color, an example of a color that you experienced as part of your love.
I can go first.
Okay.
Color,
Yeah, that you
shiny
Mhm.
black with specks of gold light.
Shiny black with specks
Of
of
gold
I could
light.
go.
Yeah, go for it.
gold light.
Um, it's green, a green of spring and blossom and aliveness.
A
Beautiful.
green of spring and aliveness.
Mhm.
Wonderful. And I just love to use for a moment what we call definitional commentary to look at a couple of these things. I'm loving in the first line that we got. We've got black as the representation of this color of love, which is a kind of a vastness, isn't it? And this black is reflective. So it's a vastness that's also reflective with tiny bits of this precious color gold, this sense of illumination. Really, there's so much in there, isn't there? And I love the second person that we heard from with the green of spring. How quickly you responded reminded me of the great thing, which is that we know what color the feeling is, or the person is. These wonderful sensory metaphors come very quickly and definitively. Somebody else with a color?
Yes, we've got some in the chat. Don says, in egocentrically focusing on self, the color is a gray muddle, valence unclear. And then a gray muddle, valence unclear. And then Patrice says, red with warmth and radiance. Joanne says, bright blue, like the endless skies. And am I saying it right, Joey? Ladakh, India?
Ladakh.
Ladakh, India. So you say it. Go ahead. Bright blue.
Yeah.
Bright blue, like the endless skies in Ladakh, India.
Awesome.
Like the endless skies in Ladakh, India.
And then Kathleen says pink.
And pink. Let's go to sound. I'd love a couple of examples, and I'd love to hear voices, a couple of examples of sound.
Anybody want to unmute and tell us your sound?
Just throw yourself right in there.
Gentle
sound.
flute music.
Hi.
Marilyn, go ahead.
Gentle flute music.
Gentle flute music.
Yeah. What else?
And I think somebody else. Marvin, did you unmute?
I think I'm unmuted. I'm Nancy.
Okay, Nancy, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, for the color was soft, powdery pink, and sounds of violins and strings. Go well with the flutes.
Yeah.
All right. We have, let's see, sound of a purring kitten. Oh yeah, Madonna, feel free to unmute.
Yes, I have a harp sound.
Okay.
A harp. Yeah, all the I love the strings, the music, the little body emitting this little rumble of pleasure. Lovely. And to the touch?
How about to the touch? Anybody want to unmute? Joanne, go ahead.
For touch?
To the touch, you are gentle and soft.
Any others I see warm fleece in the chat.
Prickly excitement.
Prickly.
I've got silky sheets between the toes.
I just went with prickly without the excitement.
Silky between the toes.
Oh gosh. Thank you
We
for
are
your,
all,
thank you for your
Yeah.
participation, everybody. It's great.
yeah, we are all creatures doing and being. What kind of animals were these Valentines of yours? A panda,
Mm.
Well, if I'm prickly, I got to be a porcupine.
porcupine,
A fox hunting.
a
Mm.
fox hunting. Yeah.
Got a playful, youthful, cuddly monkey.
Ooh. Someone said a sheep, a koala, a
Mm.
kitten. So we've got panda, koala, sheep, kitten, antelope. Wow.
Oh, oh, that's so lovely. So different from the panda
Mhm.
and so different from the kitten. And even the porcupine, this object of love, holding even a porcupine in the loving space is so beautiful. In motion, what motions did we have?
Playing air guitar.
Mm.
Playing air guitar. Okay.
Panda watching, humpback whale. Oh, someone said a humpback whale. That's for
Nice. We've got a lot of wonderful. Yep.
dancing like
Humpback
no one's
whale.
watching.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yep.
Any other actions? Feel free to unmute or put, yes, Madonna, go ahead.
I have caressing.
Caressing. Beautiful.
Caressing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Got spiraling around with arms wide open.
Spiraling around with
Mm.
arms wide open. And we've got wagging tails.
Mm.
Bounding and searching.
Bounding and searching.
And searching. Now, I'm going to ask, who said, would the person who said fox hunting be willing to have a little conversation with me?
That was me.
That was you. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Very briefly. And I want you all to do this same thing. I'd love for you to go to one of your responses, the response of yours that that you didn't feel quite fully expressive with, or that leaves you feeling not as warm and embracing and positive as you would like, a place that you would like to expand, a place that doesn't quite sit right with this poem of Valentine's Day. And Caroline, I went to fox hunting because I'd love to see what that becomes. So using definitional commentary, let's just talk for a minute about fox hunting. So what is a fox, Caroline? What kind of an animal is a fox?
A fox is sly, clever. I see foxes kind of slipping in and out of the shadows. They're also I don't know, I keep thinking of that song. What did the fox say? And they're all dancing.
Yeah. Okay.
They're they're family oriented. They have,
Yep.
they protect their own. They are stealth. They are clever. They're quick.
And this, now we have the next word right there, which, see how we can just unpack. We can unpack forever each one of the words that we come upon. What's hunting?
Hunting
if we open it up. No, not for you.
Okay.
In a dictionary.
Okay.
Because we really try to be definitional here.
Okay.
If we begin to
Tracking.
talk about tracking. I just want to finish this one
Yeah.
thought. If we begin to talk about what these words are for us personally, we begin to talk about what we already know. And this is one of the, we begin to move into a rational mode of thinking as opposed to an intuitive mode of thinking. And we're trying to stay with the intuitive one. So in a dictionary, hunting is tracking. What else?
Killing. I
Could
don't know.
be
When you're hunting an animal for another, an animal or something for
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
Help me out, guys. What's hunting? Put it in the chat.
Now take this, all that this feels like to you, this fox hunting sensation that is this object of your Valentine. And if you were to feel even more deeply open and ready and loving with regard to this object of your title, the object of this metaphor mirror, what does the animal become, and what is the animal doing?
I think that I don't know. There's a what is he hunting? Is what you're asking, right?
Nope. I'm asking if that changes for you, if you move into a space where that love gets even deeper, even broader, even more what you would like it to be, how does that shift? How does the fox hunting activity shift, or even the animal itself, or does it? Maybe it doesn't.
There's a cleverness, there's a patience,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of waiting in hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of observation in hunting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of looking at what is real and what isn't in hunting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of being fully present to and also staying with. There's a steadiness, you're usually sitting, you're either tracking or you're sitting for long periods of time. So
Caroline, this is such a beautiful example of implicational, the implicational nature of how we represent our feelings with metaphor mirroring. Is there anybody else who might like to approach this? Yeah, being alert. I see Lisa saying being alert. Is there an aspect of your own metaphor mirror about your Valentine that you're not sitting quite well with, that you would like to experience a shift about? Is there anyone else that might like to have that experience? I'm looking
Don't be shy.
Yes, I'm looking at. I'm gonna see if. I love the humpbacked whale. Who said humpbacked whale?
I did, Patrice.
Patrice?
Yes.
So that isn't something that I would think you'd want to change, but I love this image, and I'd love to unpack that image a little bit. So here we have this amazing creature. If we were to look, hi Patrice, if we were to open up a dictionary and look at this, look at the definition of this creature, what kind of a creature is this?
It's a gentle giant.
It's a gentle giant. Yeah, it combines those two such different seeming things in one package, doesn't it?
Yes.
And what's the environment of this creature?
Water, which I love.
Yeah, water where movement is accompanied in such a particular way. This is a description of the loving feeling about the object of your Valentine. This gentle giant in this environment of water, which is also buoyant, isn't it? It
Yes.
holds us up. There's a sense of even pressure all about us, a kind of holding, which is really unique to water. That's such a really powerful, such a powerful image. I love the panda too. Thank you, Patrice.
Welcome.
I love the panda as well. Who shared panda?
That was me.
Hello, you. I don't see you. What are you called? You?
Sophie.
Oh, hi, Sophie. I don't see you. You're my
Hello.
daughter, by the way.
I
This is my
am.
daughter. Thank you for being here.
Hello, it's happy to be here.
So, what kind of an animal is a panda?
Well, a panda is loving,
Yeah.
and loves bamboo.
Loves bamboo. Yeah. He's not a meat eater.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So he,
Yeah.
he's like vegetables and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah. I'm thinking also of his coloration.
that. Yeah. Black and white.
Yeah. And one of the things that's striking me about the image of that animal is that those contrasts, the absolute nature of each one of those things, and they're such complete opposites. And there they are in the same expression of feeling. Thanks, Sophie. Thanks for being here, honey.
Thank you.
I love this prickly excitement. Who said prickly excitement? Is anyone going to confess to having said prickly excitement? Is that Caroline? Yeah.
Yes, that was me.
Well, you know what? I'm going to then ask somebody else to
Sure.
contribute.
Mhm.
Who said silky between the toes?
Well, that was
Who said silky between the toes? Can you come on with us for a second?
Yeah, but I've already contributed enough, maybe someone else.
Okay. Okay. How about just plain prickly?
That
Is
would be
that
me.
Don? Hi.
It is.
Hello. So prickly, as a sensation, how can we talk about prickly?
Hard to hug.
Hard to hug. That's quite literally true about prickly. If I have something prickly against my palm, what does that feel like? What kind of a sensation is that?
It can be uncomfortable. It can also be sort of stimulative and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also thinking that it's not a smooth, full pressure. It's a sensation in certain spots and no sensation in other spots, which is kind of interesting.
It's the reciprocal of Patrice's water.
Yeah, that's
Water
right.
is full contact. The prickly is partial contact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's an interesting way to think of it. What we're doing as we look at things in this way is deliberately not going back to the poet, so to speak. These are poetic texts that we've created thanks to metaphor. We don't go back to analyzing why did you say prickly about the object of your Valentine? What we do, because that would simply take us back into what we already know. What we do is we look at the nature of the metaphor itself, what kind of sensation, physical sensation it represents, which helps us to experience and explore more of the feeling itself. It deepens and enhances our understanding of the emotion. When the emotion is difficult, as even love can be, this is a way to create some space between the emotional reality and our understanding of it, our image of it. We create room to have a new experience, and so a new reality with regard to the emotion. I'm looking at some of these. Oh, I love, who said dancing like no one's watching? Caroline, don't say it was you again.
It's me, it's Debbie. I'm sorry, no video.
Oh, okay, no problem. Dancing like no one's watching. Now, when we look at a metaphor mirror, we break these things down word by word by word. Let's start with dancing. So as emotion, and this is an expression of this love that you're working with today. What is dancing? Opening the dictionary. What is dancing?
It like carefree movement.
Wonderful. It doesn't necessarily have to be carefree, does it? But yeah, it's definitely movement. It's what else about it? How it can involve all the body parts. It's not, it's not wiggling a finger or, doing other more limited movements. Dancing is really whole body. What else would you say about dancing?
Okay, feel free.
Yeah, you can feel free. Absolutely. It's often something you do with someone else, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. This one, I'm getting the impression that this dancing is happening solo because there's nobody watching. Therefore, you're not dancing with somebody else here.
You're very perceptive.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Let's look at the word watching. What is the word watching? What is that, the meaning of that word, if we open up the dictionary? What is to watch?
Someone who's looking at you.
Yeah, it's looking at. It's looking at. It's not participatory, is it? It's kind of observing that particular word, looking at something, indeed. In this case, there's dancing without observation. There's dancing without the looking part, and if there's dancing without looking, there's a sense of absence of judgment there, isn't there? If there's not an observer, there's not a judge. And that's a beautiful way to think of love. It's really free of a sense of judgment.
That's so interesting because I find that I sometimes am judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I like that I'm open to this non-judgment.
Yeah. And what a lovely way to access that non-judgmental position through that feeling of love. Who said spiraling around with arms wide open? Spiraling around with arms wide open.
That was me.
Hi, you.
Hey, Nancy.
Hi. Spiraling. If we open a dictionary, what does it say for spiraling? The dictionary is hypothetical, of course. Yeah.
Like
just literally
spiraling around and gathering and spreading out.
Yeah, right. It's a spiral off, it kind of spreads out. That's right. A spiral can get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
A spiral turns around on itself, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A spiral, it makes me think also of a spiral staircase. A spiral can get somewhere, even in a small space. These are the facts about the word, the metaphor that you chose, and this very specific word, without analysis of the feeling itself. We're unpacking the implications of the feeling. So spiraling around with arms wide open. So what is an arm? We really break it right down. What is an arm?
It's an extension of you.
It's an extension of you. It's a human body part.
Mm-hmm.
We use them to
gather.
we use them to gather. It's a really essential body part. It's not an earlobe. So we have these, they balance us too, don't they?
Yeah.
It occurs to me. So we've got this spiraling motion that can go places even in a small space. These gathering parts of the body, which are also balancing. And what is the word wide? What does wide mean?
Expansive.
Yeah, expansive. And then following with this word open, ready for entry, ready for stimulus and input. I see unconstrained. Yeah. So this is your expression, your experience of this loved one. And that's so powerful. What happens in metaphoric affect processing is that as we share a line like spiraling around with arms wide open, as you all hear that line, you actually experience it. There's a little reverberation inside of you of that. You feel, you kind of go with that movement as you hear it spoken. I'm going to go to the beginning of this group metaphor that we just created. And I'm going to read back to you some of these. It won't be what you all said. It will be what some of you said. And I encourage you as we go through it to be aware that these are the sensory realities for each one of you about loved ones, about love, about people or things that you care deeply about. All of us gathered here together are exploring this right now with all kinds of mixed emotion about the exploration. And I invite you to really plug into the bodily sensations of the perceptions, the sensory perceptions that I'm about to read through. Dear Valentines, this is from me to you all then. As we gather together in this space to share the love we feel today, we are color, shiny black with specks of gold, the green of spring and aliveness, a gray muddle, valence unclear. The love today among us is red with warmth and radiance and bright blue like the endless skies in Ladakh, India, and pink. Together we are sound, gentle music, sounds of violins and strings, a purring kitten, the harp. To the touch, our love is gentle and soft, warm fleece, prickly excitement, silky between the toes, prickly. We are all creatures doing and being, a panda, a porcupine, a fox, hunting, a kitten, playful, youthful, cuddly monkey, a humpbacked whale. We're in motion, playing air guitar, dancing like no one's watching, caressing, spiraling around with arms wide open, bounding and searching, all together in our love. What does that feel like? Can anyone say what they're feeling right now with this metaphoric experience?
I have tears. I'm so moved by that. I sort of surprised by that. I don't know how anyone else feels, but it just feels like it's very reflective of the group and inclusive too. Anybody else?
I see comforted, Yeah. Yeah. It's moving to me to read it, and I feel comforted too. It felt different to hear each of you say the individual things and write them down than it felt to recite it all together. It's an important part of the metaphor mirroring process. It's the recitation part, and it does something. It, like art, like music, it creates the package of the implicational meaning and delivers it to us in a really powerful way. Yeah. Anyone else? What?
Madonna sent directly to me,
Yeah.
lightness and hopeful. And Joanne said, surprising in its beauty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And then Sophie, of course, said connected. And Patrice, accepted and acknowledged. Gail said it felt celebratory in its collectivity. And Don said collectivity, a little intimidating, the coalescing of the challenge of positivity. Positive days. Did I say that right, Don? Okay. We are all poetry, says Karen.
Beautifully put. We are all poetry. We are all poetry. And it's always right there to access. I invite you to consider yourselves equipped with a very powerful tool. In any moment when the awareness arises, I see poetry in motion. Yes, indeed. Whenever the awareness gifts you with the chance to do this, check in with yourself and wonder to yourself, what color is this feeling? And the feeling itself becomes a line of poetry. I am, whatever it is, shiny black with gold flecks. The lovely thing is you really do touch the sensory reality of the emotional moment, and you immediately have words to express it with, and it immediately gives you a lovely and shifting sense, a more positive, hopeful sense about what that emotion is, whatever it may be.
Don said the manner in which this sidesteps the data is both powerful and useful, gets us out of ourselves in order to go more deeply into ourselves. Nice contradiction.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Thank you for that.
And if we go right back to the book that you talked about at the very beginning, it's full catastrophe living. It's sort of, you just gave an example of it, right?
Indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, that's really true. That's really true. It's very, very powerful.
We did have a request to know the second book that
yes.
which
I can hold
write.
up the second edition.
Okay, it's called
which does not have the same fabulous introduction, because this was written 10 years later, and they'd figured everything out by now. There wasn't the introduction of humility and joy of discovery and description of the just past gallop toward research and new knowledge. Instead, it was this new manual is a description of what's already consolidated. But the first edition is great. Of course, it's always a really valuable resource.
Well, thank you, Melissa. I cannot thank you enough. It strikes me, if we go right back to the books that change your life, as well as the Positive Psychology Hour, our focus is really that words matter, right? That certainly metaphor matters. And also that we can create greater resilience by looking at reality, right? What is real, and accepting and believing and just working with or playing with all of it. And you have helped us in a way play with the dark that is very unusual and both captivating and healing at the same time. I just wanted to thank you for that. And do you find that to be true?
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. There's a way that this work, like all art does, that lets us embrace our multitude of selves. Yeah. And emotions and feelings. It's all very powerful. Mhm.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
everyone, feel free to unmute and say thank you to our speaker. I also want to let you know that next week we have Michael Steger. And if you have not heard him speak, please, please come on. He is a premier authority in purpose and meaning. He's coming out from, he's going to be zooming in. Melissa zooming in from Italy. Thank you so much. It's evening there, and he is going to be zooming in from Colorado. And he has done a lot of research on purpose and meaning. He's going to tell us his books. I can't wait to hear these and what influenced him. Everyone, it's interesting. A lot of people on the show have been going back to books that they read really, quite some time ago. Melissa, like you went back to books 20 years ago, and and Joanne, I believe you did as well, right? When you were on here, that's how powerful books are. Yeah. And we're going to be exploring that. And there's also a couple of more programs that we're doing, everything from yoga and harp to a dance soiree to a partner or a couple massage, where we're going to be teaching people how to massage one another, how to touch, so you don't hurt each other. But for those of us that are, prickly. That's me. And I say that me. I own that one.
I was missing that. Now I get it.
No. That touch, that's there for that too. And thank you so much, everyone. Please do take care of yourself. As they say in loving kindness meditation, may you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease, joy, and may you know you are loved. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Caroline.
You bet.
Thank you.